everybody who is in the music business, and especially as an artist, like a recording one, has some inspirations, right? So who has influenced maybe you and your style of music, or who are your heroes? So you mentioned Muse, and they got you into playing the electric guitar and all the effects. Is there anybody else that you look up to, or like, would like to sound like them, or, you value them
Yeah.
for something else in the music world?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many.
Yeah, bring it
uh,
on. We got time.
well, I think yeah, I mean it changes all the time. I find like I'm always up for listening to new music,
Mhm,
I'm not necessarily genre specific,
mhm,
there's little things you can pull out of different genres, different artists all around the world, which is why music is so great. You can find things that you can
mhm.
identify with, or sort of represents how you feel. And I think that's just so important. But I think in terms of sort of the top of the list at the moment, I think bands like Daughter, like the XX, Purity Ring,
Mhm.
Fantagram, Muna, Paris, Haim. They're actually quite, yeah, there's a lot of females in those bands, but that's
I'm glad.
well, yeah, I mean, I've got my own playlists, and yeah,
Mhm,
they're all over those playlists as well. But I think with sort of the LIVSKA music sound, I suppose I was just kind of trying to work out, like, I don't really know how to describe what it sounds like, but
okay.
my goal with that project is to kind of pull apart the pieces or the instruments that I really love about all my favorite musicians. For instance, with Muse, it is like the crazy effects that, in their earlier albums, the guitar effects and the
Mhm,
delays and the reverb, like that completely changed the way I looked at guitars. And the same with the band Daughter. The vocalist has an amazing voice, but again, the guitarist there has this huge assortment of pedals and sounds, and it's like, your guitar doesn't even have to sound like a guitar. And I was like, what, sounds like a string section. It's just like, oh my gosh, there's so many things you can do with it.
yeah.
And then you've got, really cool like beats, in like the XX, for instance. They have a really nice sort of chilled guitar, nice bass lines, and just really simple beats, but it just kind of feels really good. And then you've got sort of more sort of poppy kind of songs like Muna, with sort of more catchy vocals and really sort of deeper lyrics. So all Fantagram as well, like really really cool synth, really strong synth driving movement in their song. So I was just kind of like, what do I love about all these artists other than
Mhm,
just the general sound? And I was like, it's definitely, these little bits and pieces. And so
yeah.
I was kind of trying to form this LIVSKA sound, I suppose, and I can really hear all the influences from all the bands that I love, and it makes me feel like I'm really, yeah, like I feel really connected to the stuff that I'm
Mhm.
making, like more than maybe Seattle Fix, even just because it is all me, and it's like all my influences are really coming out now. There's no one else to kind of share it with,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm just super excited about the new stuff, and I can't wait to play it live.
Cool. So can we say that Livska came about in the pandemic when you figured out what you wanted to do, or had that been on your mind already when you were in Seattle Fix to do something on it like a sidekick, or like, one night stand, which is a completely different direction?
Yeah, I mean, I think towards the end of Seattle Fix, I was sort of not even thinking about music at all. I just thought I just needed a break and to have, have a real think about what I want to do,
Mhm.
how attached I want to be with music or not. And then I had all these thoughts about, looking back in 10 years time, would you, regret not pursuing something? Because I did feel like there was something still in me that I hadn't quite
Okay.
fulfilled, or I couldn't sort of tick that box and say, yes, I was in the band and I did music in
Mhm.
my life. Well, I just felt like it was still not a fully ticked off box for me. I really thought to myself, well, what can I do to, fulfill that for myself? And so, yeah, and then I got thinking, okay, I can, could try a new project. I could, just do a new version of Seattle Fix or something. So I had all these ideas, and at the end of the day, I thought, it's probably best to do, a clean slate, fresh start, new direction. Then you don't have to worry about, does it still sound like Seattle Fix or not? You can just, not that I'm completely removed from it or anything. There's still, guitar elements that still sound
Mhm.
similar to it, but there was sort of no pressure to sound like anything. You could you just had creative freedom and control to do anything that you wanted. And if it sounded good, then it felt good. And, that's all that's important at the end of the day. So, um, yeah, so I think that was sort of pre pandemic. And then sort of when that was, so I wrote Patience, the song that I'm releasing, that was
Okay.
before COVID got really bad, in terms of restrictions around the world and lockdowns and things like that. But it wasn't until I sort of made an announcement on the social media that's Seattle Fix was now officially saying goodbye, and I was working on a new music project, that I was actually approached by the producer that I worked with on the track,
Okay.
Adam B. Yeah, so he reached out to me and was just sort of saying, and I played it previously in a gig with him, in his band, so that's how I kind of knew him. And he just said, if you're ever going to write music, needed a producer, let's get in touch, And then so that was probably 2 years before that. So yeah, he reached out to me, and I thought, I've got absolutely nothing to lose, and I could really use some help, trying to do this whole project thing on my own. And yeah, it turns out that was like the best decision I could have made, because he's an amazing producer and he's taught me so much. And he's really sort of lifted the initial ideas that I had with Patience and the other tracks that I've been working on. And I just feel so happy with the music, the way it sounds, and super proud, I might even say. But yeah, like just
You should be, definitely.
that opportunity where he reached out to me, and I just said yes. I mean, I just like, I look back, I mean, there's probably not a lot of highlights for people during 2020, but working on saying yes to him, and working through him, even through Zoom sessions, trying to mix a song together and stuff, was just such a great thing for me and for my own sort of development. It definitely gave me the confidence that, what, I actually can do this on my own. I don't have to be so scared, or so reliant on having other people in the band. Like I can do all of this. And I think I really needed that little bit of a booster, because after sort of the way things left with Seattle Fix, a little bit of unknown, like, will I
Mhm.
ever revisit the music industry again, or am I done? So that kind of just, I don't know, just lighted up a spark in me. Like, yeah, I've still got something that I want to show the world, and I want to put everything into it. And so yeah, I spent COVID, working hard on these tracks. Took us maybe a year to, back and forth working on this one track. Obviously interruptions with COVID, but um, yeah, I'm just so happy with the final product, and just so glad that I said yes when he asked, because yeah, it was just a great experience, and just really eye opening for me. And yeah, so I'm just really looking forward to it actually being released. It's very
So
hard for me to
me too,
not
actually.
show everyone.
And see, and I think that's the great thing about music, and about music in Melbourne in general, that you know someone who knows someone, and then they approach you, and one thing leads to another. So because it's
Yes.
having connections in music and like putting things out there, it will always, I guess, lead you to something. So it's good to see that
Yes.
you took that leap of faith and you started a new project.
Yeah, I suppose it was like I knew there was something deep down that still wasn't quite right.
Mhm.
And it took me a while to kind of figure out, what it was. And then once you did figure out what it was, trying to figure out what to do next is just like extremely overwhelming. So I think the fact that I had so much downtime to kind of really reflect, was really beneficial for that part. Just really thinking about it carefully and thinking, what, I can do this. And then,
Mhm.
working on the track just brought everything to life. And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah, this sounds great. I'm so happy with how this is going. And then you get this buzz, and I'm still on this buzz. Like, I just want to keep writing more tracks, and I just want to keep recording. And I just, even though I haven't released anything yet, I've still got this excitement behind it. And I think it's really important that people hold on to something that keeps them excited and focused about something and motivated. I think, because I think it was really easy during COVID to kind of just switch off and go, oh, it's just easier if I don't. It's a really hard time for everyone, and it affected people in a lot of different ways. And it's not exactly an easy time to be like, let's start something new and exciting. So I had to really kind of carefully think it through. But yeah, it kept me busy, and definitely kept me distracted, so I didn't think about the more sort of terrible things of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the future, and hopefully live music comes back, and we can see, gigs again, and I can play gigs again. That would be great. So fingers crossed that things are looking better.
I just wanted to go back to something which is maybe not the musical part of it, but obviously any sort of project is also kind of like the business and all the, like logistics behind it. So you mentioned that LIVSKA is just yourself. So you do everything. So it's the music, it's the, let's say, management, I guess, or I'm not sure if you have a manager now. It's also the presence on social media. So it's being the mastermind behind everything, like you said, the videos and, all the planning. That must be exhausting. So are you looking into kind of having someone help you with that, or do you want to stay in charge of everything at the beginning? Or how much of that project is you and how much is like someone else kind of helping you?
Yeah. Well, it's all me at the moment. And it can be exhausting. But it's also, I think, something that kind of need to understand properly. And I think with Seattle Fix, I mean, we had a manager help us out with the social media stuff,
Mhm.
as well as the business side of distribution of music and stuff. So when I started this new project, I thought, oh gosh, I don't actually know how to do this because I never did it. And so for me, it's like I need to understand how all these processes work before I even think about getting help. So as exhausting as it is, I think it's just really important to actually understand, okay, so this is how I get on Spotify. This is how I can approach, these people and this person and
Mhm.
this person. So I think, um, yeah, I think at this stage, yeah, I'm just trying to put 110% into it, which yes is time consuming, but also I think needs to be done. And I don't think I would look externally for assistance until it's no longer something I could manage myself.
Mhm.
So I think I'm still swimming, still floating. um, and yeah, I think what's different for me is the social media stuff was never really a prominent part of Seattle Fix. Like we didn't really make the most of that, and I think that is like there's it's just so much more we could have done if we had sort of worked with social media. So I suppose it's just I look at it as another opportunity to kind of share my music um, and share my stories about my dog.
Yes,
but
I noticed the dog is a big part of LIVSKA. So how much material do you have at the moment, if it's not a big secret to share?
no, it's not. Um, so as of last week, I've officially got, including patients, 3 fully mastered
Mhm.
radio ready tracks. So it's very hard for me to sit on that and not share that with everyone.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to kind of just pace myself a bit. But I suppose the plan for me this year is I want to release an EP. So I've got
Mhm.
2 more tracks that I want to go in and record. And I'm hoping in the sort of second half of this year, there's a little bit more clarity around live shows and planning a live show, because I mean it's just an awful feeling, putting all this effort and time and practicing and to the lead up of a show, and then last minute, you just don't know what can happen in this climate. So it's good to see that things are slowly opening up again now, but it's just so unpredictable at this stage. So
Yeah.
I'm sort of, my plan was to kind of focus heavy on sort of online, where it's
Mhm.
there's an online presence where it's more safer. And I've actually seen a couple of live streamed concerts that were recorded, like one of the bands Paris, they recorded in a sort of empty hall, I suppose, a full live concert, and it sounded amazing. There was no crowd, but it just seeing your favorite bands up there again and just being like, oh, I miss this so much. It's so good that the bands are still finding a way to kind of still
Mhm.
play, whether it's even if it's not to no one, it's still they know people are watching online. So um yeah, I think it's just about being clever about how you go with your social media, and yeah, live performances is definitely a big thing at the moment.